Good evening. A driver has been jailed for causing a crash which killed a mother returning home from her sister's funeral. Teresa Cutler died in the head-on crash on the A31 near Wimborne in June last year. Her son and daughter were also in the car, along with her nephew, who she was caring for after her sister's death. Emma Wilkinson has the story.
Within a matter of seconds, this crash took the life of a mother as she travelled from her sister's funeral to the wake. In the Ford Fiesta with Teresa Cutler was her 18-year-old daughter Alice, her 16-year-old son Daniel and her 19-year-old nephew Joseph. As they travelled around the bend on the A31, 24-year-old Lewis Faulkner was driving in the opposite direction. The court heard Faulkner, seen here in a white shirt, veered onto the wrong side of the carriageway and smashed head-on into their car. Well, today the court heard a powerful statement from Teresa Cutler's daughter Alice. She said on that day she lost her mother, her best friend, and having lost her father in 2006, her and her brother had become orphans. She went on to say, "My children will not know their grandmother, and there will be an empty seat at our weddings where our mum should have been, had it not been for the 10th of June last year." It's not known exactly why Faulkner veered onto the wrong side of the road, but the court heard that he was drowsy and lost concentration for several seconds. The court also heard that drugs played a part. There were small traces of MDMA or ecstasy and cannabis found in Mr. Faulkner's system. He's maintained throughout that he took drugs 5 days before the crash, and while it was accepted in court that drugs didn't directly impair his driving, they did contribute to the drowsiness that led to him veering onto the other side of the road.
This is potentially a consequence of taking drugs for recreational reasons. Not just the effects it will have on your body, but sometime later you could still be suffering from the after effects, you could be involved in a collision like this, and you could go to prison.
The judge said this was a tragic case with catastrophic consequences, but he accepted that Lewis Faulkner was genuinely remorseful. While he had a previous speeding conviction, he didn't have any criminal convictions. The judge sentenced him to 4 years and 4 months behind bars.
Emma Wilkinson reporting there. Meanwhile, a man has been killed in a crash involving 3 cars on the M3 in Hampshire. Emergency teams were called to the southbound carriageway near Winchester Services early this morning. It's believed the man got out of his car following the crash and was struck by another vehicle. A man has been arrested after 2 shopkeepers were sprayed in the face with a substance during robberies in Bournemouth and Poole. One of the robberies happened at a spa shop on Wimborne Road in Winton, the other at a co-op on Oakdale Road. And police have released this image of a man they want to speak to after a staff member at McDonald's was seriously injured during an attack at closing time. The employee was punched in the face at the branch in Bournemouth Town Centre on Friday night. He sustained life-changing injuries. A teenage motorcyclist killed in a crash in Whitchurch in Hampshire has been named as 16-year-old Mac Sutcliffe. His bike collided with a van last Friday. His parents say he was a bright flame who shone in so many lives. Now, a husband who lost his wife to heart disease has raised thousands of pounds for a machine which will save the lives of others. Sarah Sharp made headlines back in 1978 as the youngest person to receive a new heart valve, but she died suddenly last year. Rachel Hepworth has her story.
September 1978, and Sarah Sharp's operation makes the national news. She was just 4 years old and the youngest person ever to receive a new heart valve. It saved her, and for nearly 40 years she was able to live a full and active life. But in December last year, following routine surgery, Sarah died unexpectedly, devastating for her family and her husband Gareth. Since then, he's ploughed his energy into raising £35,000 for Southampton General.
This is an amazing place. They literally gave Sarah her life. And seeing this machine, which is going to do an enormous amount of good, has brought a tear to the eye. I won't pretend otherwise, but it's a great feeling as well.
And the machine in question is this. Called Venus, it's a mobile heart echo machine, a first for the maternity unit at the Princess Anne Hospital. At the moment, women with heart issues have to be ferried by ambulance to the General for monitoring, a costly and time-consuming business. Venus will change that.
She's small, she's neat, and we can take her to the patient rather than having to move a mum that might have just had a newborn infant or become poorly through pregnancy. Women will get an immediate diagnosis and treatment, and therefore much safer care.
Women like Emma Clark, who had a massive heart attack after giving birth to twins, Millie and Bee, in 2012. She was in intensive care for months.
I was very poorly afterwards and ended up having heart failure. So if I'd had this machine beforehand, more readily available, I think it would have really maybe helped my outcome.
Being able to go and do something which is going to help other people is exactly what she would have wanted.
Rachel Hepworth, ITV News in Southampton.
A decision on which airport will expand has been delayed yet again. It's now on hold until the Prime Minister has heard the views of all of her ministers. Our political correspondent Phil Hornby has more.
Yeah, lots of Tory MPs are opposed. I think what she'll do is give them, if you like, permission to oppose the plan, people including Boris Johnson, for instance, the Foreign Secretary, knowing that there are enough opposition MPs to get it through. The Transport Secretary, Chris Grayling, has been in and out of Downing Street over the past few days, putting the finishing touches to this announcement, which we think will say yes to a new runway at Heathrow, but leave the door open to a future runway at Gatwick as well, so that won't please MPs from Sussex. Some people who live near Heathrow were in Downing Street this morning supporting a new runway at Heathrow. They're from the Unite Union. They think it'll mean more jobs.
It's been going on for too long. I mean, we've had this debate going on for over 15 years. And it's time we moved on it because what the worrying thing is, the rest of European airports and especially the Middle East airports are moving far quicker and we're going to be left behind.
So one more delay of a week, we think, but Mrs May has made it pretty clear she wants action, she wants things to start happening, and we think we will get an announcement either next Tuesday or next Wednesday.
Finally tonight, Francis Bernali has managed to achieve what seemed impossible, running a marathon followed by a cycle of 75 miles every single day. And he did that for 2 weeks to raise money for cancer research. Richard Jones has his incredible story.
Seeing him sprint his final few yards, you'd never guess what he's just put his body through. Maybe it was the roar of the crowd which got him over the finishing line before the Saints game against Burnley. Behind him, a gruelling fortnight in which he ran a marathon and cycled 75 miles every day.
Today's been easy. The adrenaline, the support, absolutely mind-blowing. It just, all the aches and pains have just disappeared. Yeah.
What about this welcome?
Completely unexpected. You know, it just shows the generosity of and love and support of everybody, and I'm extremely grateful, very, very touched by it.
Bernali's big race began at AFC Bournemouth at the beginning of the month and took him to all 44 Premier and Championship club grounds, including Reading and Brighton. At the last, St Mary's, he still had enough energy to do a lap of honour around the ground at half-time. Among those he met were two of his biggest fans, both currently receiving treatment for cancer.
It's amazing what he's doing for cancer research and what he's putting himself through. It's astounding. I don't know how he does it.
As he warmed down on his trusty bike, his wife Karen explained what she wants him to do now.
Relax, not run, not cycle. I don't know how easy that will be because he just wants to be on the go all the time, and he just wants to make a difference, which I think everybody's seen.
Finally, after the pain of all those miles, a dip in an ice bath before heading home for a well-deserved rest. Richard Jones, ITV News, Southampton.
Certainly deserves it. Now, what does the weather have in store? Here's Simon.
From sleet to the slopes, driving through Europe. Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Good evening. Well, after a fairly messy Monday, don't panic. The rest of the week is looking relatively settled. Well, once we get through tomorrow, that is, because there's going to be some showery rain at first, then it'll turn sunny later. But the big change is that it's going to feel a good deal cooler. Basically, we've got high pressure settling into the southwest once a weather front passes through. So things will be, as I say, relatively calm for the rest of the week. But look at that wind coming down from the chilly northwest, and that means temperatures markedly cooler than they have been. Today we had highs of around 16, won't be anywhere near that tomorrow. For tonight though, nippy thanks to the clear skies, but the clouds going to thicken up after midnight. We'll get a few showers developing as well. Temperatures by tomorrow morning 10, 11 degrees, so not a desperately cold start, but you'll not notice because those showers will rattle through. Heavy, thundery, quite messy conditions for a time, but even by around 10, 11 o'clock things are brightening up quite nicely. Sunny spells come the afternoon, but a disappointment on the thermometer. 11, 12 if you're very lucky, and the wind's noticeable as well as cool, around 15 miles an hour inland, 20 along the coast.
Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
And that's all from us. We're back tomorrow morning, but from me and from all of us here on the late team tonight, thanks for your company. Good night.